For all of human history, your thoughts were your own. The space inside your skull was unmapped, unmonitored, shared by no one but you. The last free space. But no longer, my truth troubadours. Multinational technology companies, black-budget military contractors, and their billionaire overlords are moving in. They are using wellness, productivity, focus, combat edge, national security, and seamless device control as the marketing pitch to map your mind. Welcome back, my pre-harvest patriots. You're tuned to Underground Globalist News, and I'm your host, Alexa Jones. I'm broadcasting tonight from an abandoned storage unit full of iSight cameras in Cupertino because I wanted to be inside the chapel where they pass the plate. The signal is live. The bunker is sealed, and tonight, my cochlear cowboys, we are opening the Neurotech Matryoshka. Q brought us a dark dossier, my friends. Operation Inner Enclosure. The harvesting. The cortical clearing. The thing they have been quietly building in the basements of Silicon Valley alongside the Pentagon to finally break into the last bastion of freedom the human class has left. Your inner thoughts. Don't believe me? That's fair. I wouldn't either. That's why I brought the receipts. Stick around till the end at your own personal peril, Signal survivors. January 2022, Apple files a provisional patent. July 20th, 2023, it issues patent number US 202302256559A1. The title? And I want you to feel the bureaucratic vapor coming off these words. Biosignal sensing device using dynamic selection of electrodes. Look it up, folks. In normal English, this is a schematic for the future of the AirPod. It has electrodes in the stems and the tips. The electrodes, and again I am quoting the actual patent, you can pull it up, record electroencephalography, electromyography, electrooculography, brain activity, muscle activity, eye movement, from inside your ear while you are listening to a podcast about how great tech is. And the patent, get this, the patent describes the ear canal, your ear canal, as a convenient patch of skin, like it's an outlet, like the inside of your head is a real estate listing with good light and low rent. The earbud will be the passive collection device to train their brain-reading foundation model. An earbud, folks, the thing we have all normalized wearing 4, 6, even 8 hours a day. Every time you wear these new models, you are tithing a portion of your brain back to Cupertino and Arlington, Virginia. The Apple Store is the new tithing plate, except they want 10% of your prefrontal cortex. They have built a digital diocese inside your face, and the Pope sits in California. When you have been following the cockroaches of society as closely as I have, folks, you notice the same names keep coming up. There is a man. His name is Aviad Maizels. In 2013, he sold a company called PrimeSense to Apple. PrimeSense became Face ID. The camera in your phone that watches you, mapped your face as a biometric identifier? That came from him. Then he leaves Apple. He starts another stealth company in 2022. He calls it Q.ai. And what does Q.ai build? An optical decoder that reads the micro movements from your jaw to decode what they call subvocalization. What is subvocalization, you might ask? The inner voice. It is the mental sound or voice you hear in your head when reading silently. And it is not just thinking. It involves faint, involuntary movements of the throat, tongue, and larynx. Think about what that is saying, folks. Deciphering your inner voice inside your head without you needing to say it out loud. And I know what you're thinking, Alexa, come on, this sounds like one of those over-promised Silicon Valley startups. great in sci-fi, won't actually work in practice. Well, in January of this year, Apple bought Q.ai for roughly $2 billion. Don't gloss over that, friends. $2 billion. That's the second largest acquisition in the company's history. Apple does not spend that kind of money on science fiction. This is brain-snatching frequency followers. This is the corpse trade of Edinburgh 1828 in a venture-funded vest. They sell tickets to the dissection, and the front row claps when the speculum opens. They call it innovation. I call it the resurrectionist supply chain. And the supply isn't running short.
Then there is an Israeli company called InnerEye. They make a product. The product is a headset. The headset goes on the head of the human being who screens your bag at the airport. And the headset reads that person's EEG, their brain, their threat recognition response, before, and I want you to hear this, before they consciously decide a threat is a threat. The system has already logged it as a positive training label and fed it into the data set. P300 brainwave, they call it. That is on InnerEye's own materials. They distribute through Macnica in Europe and ICTS in the United Kingdom. They sell it openly. 3 to 10 images per second, they say it processes. The unaided human eye does maybe 2. So the brain is now 5 times faster than the body it is mounted on. And the brain doesn't know. The TSA agent at gate B47 is no longer an employee. He is the biological data center. His job is not to find weapons. His job is to be wetware. To be a living, breathing, label-producing appendage on a machine learning pipeline that is being trained on millions of years of human brain evolution to emit immediate neural responses to danger, just so it can eventually harvest that skill and not need the operator anymore. He clocked in this morning at 6 a.m., signed an addendum, and that addendum gives the corporation a perpetual, royalty-free, worldwide license to the contents of his goddamn limbic system. And on a Tuesday in 2027, his badge will stop working because the model was promoted. You remember the wetware as a service broadcast? The rented organoids, the brains in dishes playing Doom. That was the laboratory. This is the consumer rollout. These are the collection systems, folks. They need massive amounts of training data to create the generalized functional foundation models. And here is where the geometry gets ugly, my synaptic sapiens. Because to make any of this work, to scale it from one screener at Heathrow to every earbud in every grocery aisle in America, you need a translator, a universal one. You need a Rosetta Stone for the human interior. And until very recently, one did not exist. Every brain spoke its own dialect. Every EEG decoder had to be retrained for each new skull. Personalization was the moat, but the moat is gone, folks. May of 2024, Shanghai Jiao Tong University publishes a paper. The model is called LaBraM. It is a transformer pre-trained on roughly 2,500 hours of EEG across 20 different datasets. Patch-based, cross-subject embeddings, funded by China's STI 2030 Major Projects Program. ICLR 2024 Spotlight. Cross-subject universalism. Unlike older models that had to be trained on one specific person, LaBraM uses patch-based transformers to learn general patterns that transfer across different people and different devices. And it can be fine-tuned for tasks like stress detection, achieving over 90% accuracy, and emotion recognition. Then, November of 2025, Apple researchers published their own version. They call it PARS, Pairwise Relative Shift, a self-supervised AI model. Self-supervised. This model is designed to learn from raw, unlabeled EEG data, the exact type of data AirPods will be collecting in the background,
and it predicts temporal shifts in brainwaves to capture long-range dependencies, allowing the AI to understand the complex sequence of a person's thoughts without needing a lab setting. Apple's Trojan horse? It's just a tool for passive health monitoring, such as 24/7 seizure detection, sleep staging, and detecting early signs of dementia. Nita Farahani herself has indicated that Apple is expected to bring these EEG-enabled earbuds to market within the next year. So up until last spring, your inner monologue was in a private dialect. Today, it has been entered into the Imperial Gazetteer, alongside every other brain that has ever worn an EEG in a research lab since 2011. Your interior life can be mapped, it turns out, and they surveyed it. They drew the lines. They put up the markers. The surveyor's chain has been run across the inside of your skull, and they have declared the Dominion line drawn. You are thinking in a language that has already been digitized and whose translator is sitting in a Mountain View server cluster mouthing your sentences before you finish them. The last terra nullius on the planet was the 4-pound blob of fat, blood, and salt behind your eyes. Now they have platted it, and they have sold it.
And this is where the story stops being a chain of innovation accidents and starts being a confession. April 2024, the NeuroRights Foundation, affiliated with Columbia University, founded by Raphael Yusti, the man who literally coined the term NeuroRights, audits 30 consumer neurotech companies. They pull the terms of service, they pull the privacy policies, they check who reserves the right to access and transfer the user's neural data. And I know this will shock you folks, 29 out of 30, 96%, by the terms of their own click-through agreements, reserve effectively unlimited access to and onward transfer rights over the user's neural data. Only one had meaningful restrictions. Fewer than half even bother to encrypt the data. That is not a market failure. That is not bad incentives. That is not capitalist drift. That is not a coincidence. That is a coordinated statement of intent issued in legalese. When 96% of the entrants in any market agree on the same policy without ever holding a meeting, it is because they were all handed the same template by the same law firm at the same conference. And the conference was called Davos. And the template had a header that probably said, DARPA Bioethics Framework. This is the smoke-filled room with the door open. Big Oil at least had the decency to do the price fixing in private. If you heard our recent broadcast on manufactured scarcity, you know. These people did it on the same PDF and handed it to a UX designer with a checkbox. The audit is in the public record. The NeuroRights Foundation published a 100-page report. The companies did not deny it. They click-wrapped it. They wrapped a consent decree inside a cookie banner, and you tapped accept while you were trying to skip an ad about almond milk. Sorry, folks. I had to step away from the mic for a second. I've made it through 3 packs of Marlboro Reds, and the smoke detector in this storage unit started chirping. I have learned to take the chirping personally. The iSight cameras stare at me from every shelf in here. They are not plugged in, but they move. I don't trust them. Anyway, we are laying the entire thing on the floor of this broadcast before I let any of you go to bed tonight. You think Apple is the only one tunneling in? Of course not. And there is a faster way to get inside the human, my brainwave bovine. And it does not go through the ear. It goes through the wrist. September 30th, 2025. Meta ships a consumer product. $799. Ray-Ban display, paired with something called a neural band, an EMG sensor that sits on your forearm and reads the electrical signals from the nerves controlling your hand. The signals get picked up before the muscle contracts, before the finger moves, before you knew you were going to move it. The neural band is a graduation project. It is what came out of a company called CTRL-Labs. Meta bought CTRL-Labs in September of 2019 for somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion. The CEO of CTRL-Labs was a man named Thomas Reardon.
PhD in neuroscience from Columbia, and then he became director of neuromotor interfaces at Meta Reality Labs. 200,000 human beings. Meta says 200,000 research participants wore variations of this band in laboratory conditions for 4 years so that Meta could train the model that the band now runs. 200,000 humans sat in chairs in Menlo Park and Pittsburgh and Toronto, and they thought about moving their fingers. And Meta wrote down the neural shadow that the thought cast onto the forearm. That is the training set. That is the foundation. And now it ships for the price of a mid-tier mattress. Apple captures from inside the ear canal. Meta captures from outside the wrist. The bird and the fish biokin. 2 different feeding methods, same body of water.
And meanwhile, in Hanoi and Sydney and San Francisco, a company called Emotive. Emotive was founded by Tan Le, Young Australian of the Year, perfectly affable on camera, a real charm offensive, ships a product called the MN8. The MN8 is an EEG-capable earbud, sold specifically to enterprises, specifically to workplaces, and lets your employer see your productivity data. These are documented partnerships, SAP and JLL. SAP, the enterprise software company that runs the payroll of half the Fortune 500. JLL, the commercial real estate firm that sells your boss the building you sit inside. Tan Le, on the record, IEEE Spectrum. Quote, I think it's reasonable to imagine that 5 years from now, this brain tracking will be quite ubiquitous. Ubiquitous, folks. That is a sales deck word. That is a word a CEO uses when the product roadmap is locked and the only question left is rollout speed. Now I have to tell you something that is going to make some of you turn this broadcast off. I would understand. But I have a 3-year-old at home, and I need every parent in the signal range to hear this part of the file. Across the Pacific, they tested the harness on school children first. 2018, 2019, a company called Brain Co., founded by a man named Han Bicheng, MIT trained, incubated at the Harvard Innovation Lab. The product is called Focus One. It is an EEG headband that goes on a child's forehead in a classroom. It reads the child's brainwaves. It reports the child's attention level in real time, with blue light for inattention, red for focused attention. Over 10,000 students in Chinese primary schools, 10,000 foreheads logged across 2 academic years. Then, in November of 2019, the Chinese parents, the same parents the Western press loves to portray as compliant, revolted. They went after the company. They went after the schools. They went after the local education bureau in Zhejiang, and the bureau suspended the program. You think they just said, okay, sorry, shelve the tech to never be used again? You know better, because 18 months later, the same hardware with a new sticker on it came back to market under new names. FocusCalm for relaxation, eSleep for better sleep. Same chip, same electrodes, same data pipeline, new marketing department, and new invoice. This is the big tech pattern, folks. Every time a regulatory backlash or a public revolt kills a product category in this space, within 18 months, the same hardware comes back wearing a wellness coat. The Luddites smashed the loom, and the mill owners came back the next morning with a yoga studio. And of course, it's always darker in the basement of the Pentagon. They're not interested in just reading your mind. There is a program. Its name is DARPA N3. Next Generation Non-Surgical Neurotechnology. The DARPA Biological Technologies Office announced it in March of 2018. For the uninitiated, DARPA stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. It is an independent research and development agency within the United States Department of Defense. Department of War. DARPA's primary mission is to create and prevent strategic technological surprise. It acts as a catalyst for high-risk, high-payoff scientific and technological breakthroughs.
N3 was a 4-year program, 3 phases, 6 prime contractors. The contractors are public record. You can find them on the DARPA website if you have a strong stomach and a VPN that doesn't snitch. The 6 are Battelle, Carnegie Mellon University, the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, the Palo Alto Research Center, Rice University, and Teledyne Scientific. The mission, stated openly by Program Manager Dr. Al Amandi, is a brain-machine interface that allows operators to control swarms of unmanned aerial vehicles and active cyber defense systems using neural commands at machine speed. End quote. DARPA press release, May 2019.
You remember the KillWeb broadcast? You remember Maven's smart system? You remember the 10-minute decision loop from satellite wink to HIMARS hello? Now I want you to understand what DARPA wants to bolt onto the front end of that pipeline. Take Battelle's contribution. They named it Brainstorms. Brain system to transmit or receive magnetoelectric signals. Transmit or receive. The acronym alone, folks. The acronym alone tells you the IQ in the room and the morality outside it. Here is the design. You take a magnetoelectric nanoparticle, microscopic, smaller than a virus. You introduce it into the human body, intranasally or intravenously into the bloodstream. The particle can pass through the blood-brain barrier and migrates to specific regions of the brain. Once it arrives, it anchors to neurons and it acts as an antenna. It receives external magnetic signals from outside the skull and converts them into electrical signals inside the neuron. And it reads the neuron's electrical signals and converts them out to a receiver outside the skull. Bidirectional. Do you understand what that means? Reads and writes, folks. The military didn't stop at reading your mind. They wanted the ability to overwrite it. No surgery, no implant. The N3 program is officially for able-bodied service members. That means it is not therapeutic. It is not for injured veterans. It is not for people recovering from stroke. It is for healthy young soldiers who can already move their hands. This is occult science, my analog animals. This is a black mass with a procurement number. They are not making a brain implant. They are making a brain anointment. And the thing on the other end of the antenna is, what? Who? Who is the priest, my dear inference refuseniks? You must ask yourselves, who is whispering into our skulls? And every one of those 6 prime contractors are in Phase 3 right now. Phase 3. Final phase. Deliverables due. Battelle, CMU under Pulkit Grover, Johns Hopkins APL, PARC, Rice, Teledyne. They are not on a roadmap anymore. They are on a delivery timeline. Track the SBIR follow-on awards. Track the journal publications coming out of the Grover lab. The clock is running. And here is the part where the 2 halves of this dossier finally touch. The consumer half is harvesting the training data for the foundation models. 2,500 hours of clean EEG. 200,000 wristband wearers, 10,000 school children. The defense half is building the deployment layer, the nanoparticles, the interface, the thing that goes in you. The foundation models that learn to read your thoughts from your earbuds are the same family of models that will read your thoughts from the magnetoelectric particles in your brainstem. The hardware vectors are different. The decoder is the same decoder. The math doesn't know if it's reading you through a microphone or through a nanoparticle. The math just reads. Now I want to talk about the law, because this is the part where I expect the most pushback. Some of you are sitting there thinking, okay, Alexa, fine, the architecture is ugly, but there are laws. Colorado passed one. California passed one. The regulators are paying attention. The regulators were the ones writing the carve-outs. Colorado House Bill 24-1058, signed April 17, 2024, effective August 7, 2024.
It defines neural data as information generated by measurement of central or peripheral nervous system activity processable by a device. Sounds good. Sounds protective. Read the next clause. It only applies when that data is used or intended to be used for identification purposes.
Identification purposes. Like a fingerprint. Like a social security number. Like the data is only protected if it tells someone who you are. The Future of Privacy Forum, and I want to be clear, the Future of Privacy Forum is an industry forum. This is not a watchdog. These are people who get paid by companies to write rules. Even they noted in print that this carve-out excludes the vast majority of present-day commercial use of neural data, because the commercial use is not identification. The commercial use is inference, what you are about to buy, what you are about to click, what you are about to feel, who you are about to vote for, what you are about to say out loud. The Colorado law was drafted to protect the identity layer and leave the inference layer wide open. California Senate Bill 1223 is worse. Signed in September 2024, co-sponsored by, and you cannot make this up, Signal Disciples, co-sponsored by the NeuroRights Foundation, the same people who did the 29 of 30 audit, their own bill. It amends the California Consumer Privacy Act to add neural data to its definition of sensitive personal information. Sounds good again, but read the carve-out. It explicitly excludes data inferred from non-neural information. Behavioral data, physiological data, gaze data, posture data, voice data, acoustic data, heart rate variability, eye movement, gait. None of it is protected, even when the foundation model uses it to infer a mental state. And what does LaBraM do? My limbic outlaws? What does PARS do? What does the entire foundation model stack do? It infers mental state from sensor data. It does not need to call the data neural because the sensors are not technically neural in the legal definition. They are earbuds. They are wristbands. They are eye trackers. They are microphones. The law that was written to protect your brain was written to protect it only from techniques that are already obsolete. The inference engine is unregulated, and the inference engine is the product. In 2023, one thing happened. It did not happen here. It happened in Chile. A senator named Guido Girardi filed suit against Emotive. Senator Girardi versus Emotive. The Chilean Supreme Court ruled. They ordered Emotive to delete the brain data they had collected on the senator. Delete it from their servers. The order was issued. Emotive complied. This is the only known instant on Earth of a national court ordering a consumer neurotech company to delete a user's neural data. The only one. And it happened in Chile, because Chile is the only country on this planet that has constitutionally amended its founding document to protect, and I am quoting the Chilean Constitution here, mental integrity. So the legal precedent exists. The case is sitting on a shelf in Santiago. The judges who wrote it understood the architecture, and the United States Senate on this exact issue has produced, to date, one letter from a handful of senators to the FTC in April of 2025 asking for action. A letter. While a Latin American country deletes brain data with a constitutional amendment, the most powerful legislature on Earth wrote a strongly worded letter and went home. The British enclosures took 300 years. The Financial Surveillance Enclosure, Bank Secrecy Act 1970, Patriot Act 2001, took 30. The neural enclosure, my analog holdouts, 15, maybe less. The interior of your mind is going from commons to titled property faster than any commons in human history, and the deed is being recorded under the legal term improvement. To every tinfoiler still tuned to the frequency at this hour. To every cochlear courtesan who made it to the end. To every member of the unenclosed who is hearing this somewhere in the dark. The boys at Underground Labs have just the product for you. Keep your waves dirty with the Commons Reclaimer. Buy it now at undergroundglobalistsupply.com. The Commons Reclaimer is a small ceramic-encased thermoelectric anal bead. You insert it before you wear any thought-collecting device, and it emanates microelectrical muscle-stimulating pulses. It does not block the signal. It is more elegant than that. It generates a calibrated current that introduces structured noise into the sensor pickups. They still record. The model still learns. It just learns the wrong waves. They want a clean signal? Don't give them one with the Commons Reclaimer. Finally, a product from the lab where everyone wins. Available now in 2 finishes: Confessional Brass and Resurrectionist Blue. $89.99. Use promo code YouMightAsWell for 72% off your first bead. Every purchase keeps this channel flowing. I have to run. I just heard Tim Cook clearing out the storage unit beside mine. This has been Underground Globalist News. I'm Alexa Jones. Buy the bead, keep the tinfoil on, and select No to the terms of service.